attack. And that's what we're doing. Today I'm pleased to announce that we have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. And Canada has called us and they want to be a part of it.
What happens when a superpower demands loyalty and gets rejection instead? Imagine this. Donald Trump unveils his grand $175 billion missile defense dream, the so-called Golden Dome. He turns to Canada not as a friend, but as a customer, demanding contracts worth billions. Then, in the most audacious twist, he offers a discount if Canada simply gives up its sovereignty and becomes America's 51st state. Sounds absurd, right? Yet, this isn't one of Trump's imagination. It's unfolding now, and the Pentagon is left scrambling. Today, we unpack how a single refusal from Canada rattled Washington, humiliated the Pentagon, and exposed cracks in U.S. power. Let's find out. It all began with a thunderous declaration from Donald Trump. America's defense shield, the Golden Dome, would rise, and allies had better pay up. In his trademark style, Trump pointed straight at Canada, claiming the Pentagon needed billions in contracts and that Ottawa had no choice but to join. The Pentagon, standing behind him, expected Canada to quietly comply. Watch what he has to say.
And as I said, we'll be discussing Canada. They want to hook in and they want to see if they can be a part of it. That sort of makes sense. I guess that's what I was talking about from day one. You know, it just automatically makes sense. And it won't be very difficult to do, but they'll pay their fair share. Thank you very much, everybody. And Pete, go ahead. Sure. And that's what we're doing. Today I'm pleased to announce that we have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. And Canada has called us and they want to be a part of it. So we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also. So as usual, we help Canada do the best we can. This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term. So we'll have it done in about 3 years. Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world and even if they are launched from space. And we will have the best system ever built. As you know, we helped Israel with theirs, and it was very successful, and now we have technology that's even far advanced from that, but including hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, and advanced cruise missiles. All of them will be knocked out of the air. We will truly be completing the job that President Reagan started 40 years ago, forever ending the missile threat to the American homeland, and the success rate is very close to 100%, which is incredible when you think of it. You're shooting bullets out of the air. I'm also pleased to report that the one big, beautiful bill will include $25 billion for the Golden Dome to help construction get underway. That's the initial sort of a down deposit. And we have probably, you're talking about, General, we're talking about $175 billion total cost of this when it's complete.
The bold demand created shockwaves across North America. Trump framed it as a patriotic call, but to Canada it sounded like coercion wrapped in patriotism. That moment set the stage for a diplomatic showdown unlike any other. Trump doubled down by assuring his supporters that Canada actually wanted in. With his usual bravado, he painted a picture of eager Canadian leaders knocking at America's door to be part of the Golden Dome. According to Trump, this wasn't about pressure. It was about Canada begging to be included. But Canadians watching back home saw something different. A president twisting reality to claim victory before negotiations even began. This framing wasn't just about defense, it was about control. By presenting Canada's interest as fact, Trump boxed Ottawa into a corner, forcing it to either play along or push back hard. But the reaction from Canada's Prime Minister proved how serious they are. Take a look.
Okay, well, I'm not going to put a price tag on the second part of your question. I think I'll say the following about the situation with air defense or ballistic missile defense, intercontinental ballistic missile defense, broader defense against, including potential missiles that in the not too distant future could come from space. I mean, these are some of the threats that our nation faces. We take those threats seriously. We take our responsibilities as a government seriously, as I just said. It's one of the reasons why we made the commitment back in March for the over-the-horizon radar, the first phase of the over-horizon radar system, and that was an independent decision that we took. We are conscious that we have an ability, if we so choose, to complete the Golden Dome with investments and partnership. And it's something that we are looking at and something that has been discussed at a high level, but I'm not sure one negotiates on this. These are military decisions that are then taken in that context. And we will evaluate it accordingly.
But he also made sure Trump doesn't get the impression that Canada needs them all the time. He reminded everyone that European alternatives exist, deals that could bring better value, more independence, and even domestic benefits. Then came the sharpest line. After half a century of deepening integration with the US, that process is finished. Canada will cooperate only when it serves its own interests. And on missile defense, he left the door open, but only if it's the best deal for Canada, not because of American pressure.
We'll talk about defense for a moment. With respect to the F-35, it was raised a moment ago, we have alternatives for the F-35 for the back end of that. European alternatives that we could pursue. We have to weigh them in the best interests of Canada. That's how we will evaluate it. With respect to broader defense, whether it's air, sea, land, cyber, we have other partnerships that we can strike. And one of the things, as you will have heard, but I'll repeat, that we have been discussing with our European partners is becoming a full partner of Rearm Europe, Safe Europe, different acronyms for a major relationship that we can have that gives us diversification, new partners, new options, better value for money, potentially more domestic Canadian economic benefits. So all of that exists in parallel to potential opportunities with the US. And the way I would characterize the change in the relationship, and I stood in this room and made those comments the first time, and I'm very clear, and I absolutely repeat them today, which is we had for almost half a century, we as Canada, a relationship with the Americans which were a steady process of deepening integration. Deepening integration in economics. We went from free trade deal through to CUSMA, deepening integration in military aspects. And that process of deepening integration is over. We are in a position now where we cooperate when necessary, but not necessarily cooperate. So we have other options for that cooperation. We are pursuing those other options. You will see a very different set of partnerships, security and economic, going forward. But to be absolutely clear, when it is in Canada's interest, first best interest, to cooperate with the Americans, to strike deals with the Americans, relationships, and particularly in examples like ballistic missile defense, that may be the best option, and if so, we will pursue that.
While Trump set the stage with bombast, the actual Golden Dome revealed its own problems. On paper, it promised a 4-layer shield stretching from space satellites to land-based interceptors, an iron umbrella against missile threats, but with a projected cost of $175 billion and whispers that it could climb above to more, critics saw a fantasy more than a feasible defense system. The Pentagon kept details secret only for leaks to expose delays, risks, and untested technology.
President Trump in the Oval Office today said that the total cost for this project would be about $175 billion, and it could take just 3 years to complete. Now, that's on the low end of the estimates that experts have been offering on what such a system may take. The caveats here are that the $175 billion, including $25 billion that is just a down payment to get the system started, which is included in the reconciliation bill that has not yet passed. None of that funding has been provided by Congress yet. President Trump is optimistic that Congress is supportive of the plan and he'll get that funding. And then the other caveat is that the program, the Defense Department still has to choose many of the contractors to build up this program. Now, the first step was taken today in the Oval Office where President Trump named Space Force General Michael Gutlein as the program manager for this. So he will see this building start, and when it ends, if it ends in 3 years, that will be quite a success story, since this is such an expansive program that's going to integrate missile defense from the seabed all the way to space.
Then came the ultimatum that made everything very complicated. Trump suggested two options. Canada could pay a staggering $61 billion for entry, or join for free by becoming the United States' 51st state.
Economic force, because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada. So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people, they're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it. We're spending hundreds of billions a year to take care of Canada. We lose in trade deficits, we're losing massive. We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit. We don't need the cars. We don't need their lumber. We have massive fields of lumber. We don't need their lumber. We have to unrestrict them because stupid people put, restrictions on, but I can do that with an executive order. We don't need anything they have. We don't need their dairy products. We have more than they have. We don't need anything. So why are we losing $200 billion a year and more to protect Canada? Why are we supporting a country $200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal. All of these other things, they should be a state.
To Canadians, it was insulting, even absurd. Sovereignty was suddenly reduced to a bargaining chip in a missile deal. Yet beneath the theatrics was a dangerous message. America saw Canada's independence as negotiable. Trump's words weren't just a negotiation tactic, they exposed how Washington viewed alliances not as equals, but as assets to be bought, sold, or absorbed. The ultimatum escalated the standoff into something far bigger.
Well, the U.S. president did not respond directly to today's throne speech, but did post this online after. On Truth Social, Trump wrote, "Canada very much wants to be part of our fabulous Golden Dome system. It will cost $61 billion US, equivalent to more than 84 billion Canadian, if they remain a separate but unequal nation," adding it will be $0 if they become our cherished 51st state. Trump ended with, "They are considering the offer." Mark Carney's office was quick to respond, writing, "The Prime Minister has been clear at every opportunity, including in his conversations with President Trump, that Canada is an independent, sovereign nation, and it will remain one."
And then came the moment that humiliated Washington. Canada, through Prime Minister Mark Carney, flatly refused Trump's 51st state offer and dodged the $61 billion trap. In one move, Ottawa preserved its sovereignty and sent a signal. America may push, but Canada won't bend. But the Pentagon, already under fire for secrecy and costs, this was a public embarrassment. What was supposed to be a show of unity became a reminder of division. In fact, the Prime Minister answered this months ago.
You had said that Canada should become the 51st state. Were you joking?
No, no. Well, I still believe that, but you know, takes two to tango, right?
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, you know, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale.
So the Golden Dome, once touted as a symbol of strength, now looked like a monument to overreach. Canada's no didn't just echo, it exposed the cracks in US power. Do you think Canada made the right move by standing up to Trump's demands? Let us know in the comment section. Could the Golden Dome actually protect North America, or is it just an expensive fantasy?